I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.
What is the path to awakening supposed to look like? To feel like? How do you know if you are on it? We ask these very sacred and sometimes vulnerable questions to many different women from all walks of life. A conversation that needs to be shared and heard. I'm Jo Hendy.
I'm Amanda Parker.
And welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast. Yeehaw!
We're here.
I'm excited.
Oh, yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So we couldn't have asked for a more perfect guest this morning because it is our first one back for 2024.
Yes. And we couldn't wait any longer. We were literally bursting out of our own seams to be back in the seat for Girl Awakening this year.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, when I was driving here this morning, I actually had tears in my eyes thinking, I'm going back into that space, that space where you're accountable and you're learning and you're unlearning, and it's just such a beautiful space to be in. We kind of wish we were here all the time, which we're trying to be here all the time, but it is hard. It's tricky.
Yeah, we're trying to, or we are not trying, we are living with what we've chosen to open up with this podcast as where we go forward from forevermore.
Absolutely.
Such a gift.
We're in a new space. The studio has moved, which is really beautiful too, because, it's a new year, new numbers, new space, and a beautiful guest who knows all about this
all about
stuff.
The numbers and more, so much more.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have Sarah Yip in with us today, professional numerologist and psychic. Sarah is unique in the psychic world because she was a scientist who worked for the Australian government, UN, and in high-level fundraising. Her background in ethical leadership, business and personal growth gives her a unique ability to return you to your power and connect you to your soul in seconds, which is what we love.
Feel it just sitting in her space.
Yeah. She helps leaders and change makers to succeed by connecting them with the 1111 angels, numerology and their intuition. Love the 1111. I think that's going to resonate a lot with our listeners.
Awesome.
Welcome, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't really start until February.
Oh
so
my God, I wanted to talk about this
bit,
too.
We're a little bit early,
Yes.
but that's okay.
Yes,
We're anticipating, we're doing the Aquarian thing in the head of ourselves.
Yeah. We're just laying that red carpet for the people. So,
Yeah. So I actually want to talk to you about that near the end. We want to talk about you first, and then near the end, I really wanted to ask a few questions around that 13-month year and, when it actually begins and how we've kind of been, once again, taken off track, out of alignment through greater means.
The controlling powers.
Yes, the controlling powers. Yes. So, did you want to ask the first question?
Oh, the first question for the first time this year. Sarah, beautiful, how did your awakening begin?
I think I was born pretty awake, I'll be honest with you, that I have done a lot of work of choosing my body and my family, and then actually being pretty organised by the time I came out. And I actually work with a lot of people around the moment of birth and just before they jump planes. And I distinctly remember being able to choose my body, and it was a little bit like those doll books where you can choose the bodies and put the clothes on with the little paper, little paper tabs. And they said it would be a lot easier if you're sort of a big tough guy. And then I was distinct and saying I actually wanted to have a lot of health problems and I wanted to be a minority, and I felt that although I'd be the underdog, it would come good. And then I would actually be a little bit of like a ninja.
Yes.
So I remember having an argument about my body. Wow. And interestingly, I still have a lot of arguments with my body. So that's a bit of a consistent theme. So I think I came in pretty clear, and I work with lots of people to return them to that choice point. I think it really gives a lot of grace to whatever they're going through, and it helps us to remember that we weren't just dropped here by someone who forgot about us, like an errant stalk.
Oh, that's
so beautiful.
Incredible.
I don't think we've ever had a beginning like that.
No.
And I totally understand what you're saying, although I haven't experienced that, although I would love to have experienced that. I think it's really powerful the way that you just said it. It's so beautiful that you already
that you have that clear recollection. Yes. And what you shared around that we weren't just dropped here and forgotten, because I think that is a big energy that a lot of people carry around being alone, and there's so much love there, and there's so much choice there, and being present here.
Got a lot of goosebumps. I mean, I suppose and I think that energy probably comes from things like daycare or going to school, and how a lot of people, especially in the 80s, were just pretty much left, like dropped and left. But things are changing. People are a lot more in tune, and the children are a lot more demanding and bossy, so that kind of helps. Because I personally think a lot of the children coming through now have been through the wars, and they've come back, and that violence does not work on them, and so you actually do have to explain what you're doing, even when they're in utero or when they're little, and otherwise they just don't let you pass the test or through the door, literally. I think a lot of them have been through the wars, and they've come to show us that the way is consultation.
Oh, wow.
I want to go back to how you started, because I think that's really important and really beautiful. The remembering part of, and the choice part.
Sure.
Can you explain to our listeners a little bit more around that? Like, I know you said they said it would be better off if you come through as a strong man.
Well, it would have been a lot easier, I'll be honest with you. I would have just pushed my bullies over instead of having to report them to the embassy. But anyway, because I did have to do that, and it was super annoying and a lot of paperwork.
You know what I mean? Away from where you really want to go.
I wish I could have just given them a wedgie and run off, but alas, that was not to be. So how do I put it? I believe that we basically watch the news upstairs, and every now and then they flash about Earth, and people will just sort of rub their little angel foreheads. And every now and then someone will go, oh, you know what, I think it's time I went down again. And then they do a full interview, full briefing.
Is this like a blueprint, what they talk about, a blueprint? Is it like that?
Yeah,
or is it...
I think so.
Yeah?
And then they do a big interview process, and you have to get everyone to sign off on who's going to be your good guys and your bad guys. And your bad guys have to stand in this one-way mirror, and you get to choose them all. It's pretty fun.
Oh,
and then
so cool.
And then right until the moment that you jump into a body, they have someone with you to make sure you follow through. And then when you do jump, there's this little voice in your ear. And I help a lot of people to reconnect to the voice in their ear that was there when they jumped. And I usually meet people at a jump point. And so that is a little bit of a weird job description, but I'm all for weird. And so basically I'll meet someone, and almost always something will change within, it could be sometimes an hour, a day, a week, or they've just come through a jump. And I like that. I find you can do a lot of good there, but it's not for everyone. It's a pretty high stress occupation.
And I imagine a lot of accountability too, with how you identify the individual that you're working with. And I guess I get the sense that you're going to go all the way with them anyway, because you know if they've connected with you, that's what they're there for, to hear it all. But there's, when I mean accountability, it's about, it's a precious gift what you have, and a precious gift that you're sharing with the person. That they are a gift as well. So it's kind of like handling something very delicate and yet very enormous all at the same time.
Yeah, it's a bit like being a spiritual midwife. But babies are tougher than we realise, and they come in with a full soul army and all their past lives and all their little bags packed. And so, it's true. I work with people at a delicate time in their life, but it's also when they're the strongest, because they're usually the most open to their truth. It's a very particular job I have. And I think because I'm quite clear about what I'm here to do, it allows other people to fall back into their own frequency. But I can't say I have a 100% success rate.
Well, people have to want it too, don't they?
Yeah.
They may come to you and say, oh yes, this is what I want, but are they ready to hear what you're about to tell them?
So that's, there's kind of a couple of ways around that. So yes, that's absolutely true. And then it's also true that there's a lot of ecosystems which are so toxic that the person would never be ready. And sometimes you just have to evacuate.
It's funny,
or you get evacuated.
Yeah.
When you talk about, just before when you talked about, the voices in the ear, I got really emotional, because I go, there's so many people, and I'm one of them out there, that can sometimes feel really alone, or or not good enough, or
probably need to clean your ears.
Most probably.
I know there's more to what you just said, that it's not using the cotton bud, it's like...
But it's like, it's almost like, did you, having that there, would be a bit of peace of mind too, that you're not alone, that
I've always felt really guided, but I've also felt always very alone, because I have a paradoxical situation where I know I've always had a strong spiritual connection, but then it's kind of forced me to make a lot of unpopular decisions. And so once I found numerology, that was very helpful, because I realized I was always going to be 10 or 20 years in advance, not to sound egotistical, and it's not in every area, trust me, but in a lot of areas, and I might be dead before some of the work is recognized, and I feel kind of okay about it now that I've framed it properly. And actually, to be honest, I think most leaders, and I do like to work with leaders, they have to at some point embrace that factoid, that the applause might not come, and you still have to perform, because that's your destiny.
Absolutely.
And
I think
isn't
that's
it
a great lesson for all of us.
Oh, and to not expecting the accolade at the time is a great humanizer, but also very humbling as well, just to do it for the pure essence of what it's about, your calling, your purpose, your satisfaction.
It's not always recognised. In fact, it's rarely recognised. But yeah, I've been testing on Facebook for a long time. I've probably been on there 13 years, and I always test because I'm from fundraising and, science, and so I do like to test things. And sometimes the deepest post, the ones I really think is like going to change the world, gets like 2 likes. And then there's really dumb ones like, oh look, I fell over this piece of fruit, gets like 1,000. And I just think
the state of the world,
like, should I change myself? Should I fall over more fruit? And it's a dance, because there's a part of you that just so gets that hit. You get that hit from the stats. But I wrote this a long time ago, but we're a society obsessed with figures. Figures like, how much money do you make? How much do you weigh? How many likes do you have? And so numerology breaks that vicious cycle. Once you start working with numbers, as we call it, like mathemagics, a lot of that falls away. I don't know how to explain it, because I'm still in the process myself, but it's just this wonderful, it just dissolves a lot of that need for fix. Can't explain it exactly.
Well, it's like the truth of who we are, one part of the truth of who we are, without all the bullshit, basically, because everything you just talked about, numbers and stats and likes and whatever, is all a facade anyway. It's not the truth. It's just,
it can be manipulated. And I think with Pluto coming into Aquarius in the next few days, that's like 100% the theme right now. Look, as a scientist, I could manipulate data, and I saw people do it, and so it makes me laugh when people go, it's been proven.
Proven to what they wanted to prove.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, so did you check who paid for it? And they go, no. And I say, well, the dairy industry paid for that study that shows that milk is really good for you. It doesn't cause mucus. And they're like, really? And I'll say, and they're like, oh, but it's science. And I'll say, scientists need to eat. In fact, a lot of scientists live paycheck to paycheck trying to get the funding. And if their research doesn't get enough likes, they don't have a lab next year. So you've got to understand the dynamic there. And that's not to say a lot of scientists aren't awesome people, but as a scientist,
they live in a world that's not always about what they want to do.
It's not as pure as you think.
Well, I think that's what I remember reading once, when you truly become awake, don't expect the money to flow in, or something like that. A true person that's on the road or on the journey is not going to be loaded. Well, it's not about that anymore.
I haven't heard that. I'd say I've got sort of some of me agrees with that. Yeah, and I think some of me slightly disagrees, but I think that's a very powerful thing to bring up on today's call, because of course the 8 energy of this year is all about balance. And I believe that we're paid in a number of currencies, so not just the Australian dollar, but like goodwill. And so it's really good to sort of check into all your accounts, because sometimes your karmic account is overflowing and you just need to do a bit of an exchangey, swapsy, and things start to manifest. I like manifesting. I think of it as sort of tax-free receiving.
Well, in saying that too, I love
think that's where we go with the new currency, because there's literally everyone keeps talking around decentralization and all these kind of things, And yet if we really look at it from the whole Pluto and Aquarius, the whole transformation of humanity, what you just shared then around currency is going back to the days of bartering and exchange of goods. But also involving our own personal energy fields in what is currency, and all those ways of exchange and connection with what is happening within. I just love that so much.
Yeah, well, the bank's just the middle person, and I'm all about reducing that, especially in spirituality. I feel like it's very important to learn languages like numerology so you can directly converse with your spirit and your guides and with the angel numbers, and just get the text directly in instead of having someone to read it to you. So I'm all about reducing the layering and the bureaucracy. That's from someone who worked in like the biggest bureaucracy ever, like the UN and also the Australian government. And I do recall, being a graduate, and you get picked and you're so excited about being this like special person, and then it took me 1 year to get a document signed by 4 people.
Oh my gosh.
And so I remember just sitting there going, like, a signature literally takes 5 seconds, but because they were department heads, it took a year.
And filtering through all the ranks to get
I felt bad for being paid for that. I was being paid with taxpayers' money, and I thought, that's just a part of me, this is just not working. So I suppose I just wasn't meant to be in government for too long, but I was there long enough to make a pretty big ruckus.
Good on you.
They all remember me.
Yeah.
In fact, I narrowly didn't get into the graduate program. I got in because I made a joke about 2001 Space Odyssey, although that's not on the official documents. So I think, honestly, it's always been a little bit of that dry humour that's gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. And
I guess people don't know whether when you're serious or when you're...
No, because I look like an accountant, so that helps. But, a little bit of humour, I think, is also I call humour, what is it? A sense of humour is a sense of human. I'm always deeply concerned when I see people, it doesn't matter what industry they're in, but they haven't got a sense of humour. I'm really worried for them, and I'm worried for the people who follow them. Because I think that they're sterilising their tribe, because you sterilise yourself when you take away the fun.
Interesting. So it's a big tactic around sterilising. So going back to I want to ask before we ask the next question is when did numerology find you? Like, you come into the world awake.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty direct hit. So I can't remember it, but I think I was standing in a bookshop and I saw a numerology book by someone in Brisbane. It was on sale for about $3, and I remember thinking, I believe in numerology, about $3 worth. So so I bought it, and I went, oh, this is amazing. And then I did about 50 charts that night. Went, bugger it. I think I found my next job. And then I was really annoyed. But around that time, so I can't quite remember, I think around that time I was also standing in the relaxation centre in Brisbane, and someone who had met me once, he saw me looking at this book by Dan Millman called The Life You're Born to Live.
Oh, yes.
Love that.
And he just saw me looking at it, and I was pretty skint at the time, and he said, I'll just buy that book. You need that book? And I went, what the hell? Wow. What the hell? What is this? Oh. And he just bought me the book.
That makes me feel, because Dan Millman's all about the spiritual warrior, and here you have this person just identifying with, it's a higher thing around this angel receives a book that activates her to the next path. I'm going to be that person. That
So his name was John, and that's actually my dad's name. So it was very beautiful, and that it is the type of book you tend to give and then lose. Like, almost everyone I know has lost their copy because someone will be like, I'll just borrow this for a cup. I'll just see you never comes back. It's got legs. Those books have legs. But that helped. And that was around 29, which was my turning point as a 2911. Interestingly, I was thinking of Dan the other day, and I wrote him an email, and it bounced. And so what I did is I Googled him, and then I found out that he was actually giving a talk last week. And so it was amazing. I was actually on a talk with him in the last day. Wow. And I've got a nice little screenshot of me and the baby talking to him.
Oh, beautiful.
So at a certain level, you become a frequency, and people basically conference call you as a frequency. You're like a radio wave. And I'm not entirely sure how it happened, but I think I'm in that area more and more, because people will say, 1111 makes me think of you, and I'm like, that's not the point, but you know, as long as it brings you back to questioning, that's okay. But yeah, a lot of people now contact me, and this has been going on for many years. And
is that a little bit like remote viewing, kind of?
I think it's in the same ballpark. I think the best way to explain it is, at some point your essence becomes more important than your physicality. And so I have a real comfort now that even when I die, my essence will still be here. And of course, having children does help with that. But just the work I've done, I know it's forever work. And I try to encourage other people to also find their forever work. And it just gives you perseverance, because without that, of course, you just stop and start so many things.
I love that.
The forever work, it's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So
That's
I guess
so amazing.
with what you're just saying then, around 29, like our next question is, when did you notice a shift in your thoughts around the world? That I imagine is going to be fun.
Say that again. I just want to make sure I get that.
When did you first notice a shift in your thoughts about the world?
So I suppose what we're looking at is,
I'm just thinking,
when did you notice that there were control mechanisms in place to keep us kind of boxed and
out of our truth?
Yes. So another way we look at this is through programs. And the Matrix is another good word for it.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many moments.
Yeah.
The one that's coming to mind is I wrote a wish list of people I wanted to read for, and at the top of the list was Nat Cook, and I found out she worked a kilometre from my office, so I actually went and interviewed and read for her, and that was hilarious, because her assistant was like, "Are you sure you want me to let this woman in?" And then Nat was like, "I don't know why I'm doing this." But she was beautiful. She's a Master's 33. She was cool. And then on second on my list was Ellen. Now, just remember, at the time, nothing had come out about Ellen, and she was just someone I wanted to read for. And then within a couple,
referring to Ellen DeGeneres.
yeah, and then within a couple of weeks, I got an email that said, "Do you want to be in Ellen's Christmas hamper?" And I'm like, hell yeah. So I spent a month creating a big lifetime reading for her and Portia, and sent it to her office in, I think, LA. And then, really weird thing happened. I mean, you think after putting in that much energy, they would reply, but
yes,
I didn't get a physical reply. I got a virtual reply. So I had a dream where she brought me on stage and she said thank you, and she went through the whole report with me. And then I woke up, and it hadn't happened in like 3D. It only happened in the illusory world. And I said to Chris, I don't understand. Usually when I, aim for something, I get it. I can't understand why this is not happening. But it's also true that was one of the first times when I started to do the chart for Ellen. I do ask for permission, and it's very private and things, but I felt really sick. I felt really toxic. I felt really overwhelmed. And that, I think, was the sign that there was something a bit skew-iff going on there. And then, of course, we later found out about all the harassment, and I pretty much said to my husband, I dodged a bullet. And that's when I think I started to click that, not everything I believed in was as clear as I thought. And then it happened again when I wanted to do the readings for the royal family, and I thought, this will be a walk in the park. And then I pretty much got electrified when I tried to do it. And my husband's like, "You're such an idiot. They have full spells. They're wizards, Sarah." And I went, "Oh, really?" Because I just kind of went, "Do, do, do. I'll just do their numbers." And I was like, "Why am I lying on the floor shaking?" And he's like, "Sarah, they're occult masters." And I went, "Okay, Chris." So I got my crystal healing friend Dennis to do this full grid. And then I did it. It's a long story. I won't take up too much time, but
it's a very interesting story.
I was really struggling to do the royal family's charts. And I suddenly realized this is why no one does the royal family's charts. Go Google it. No one's done it. And I went, oh.
Or unless they're in the tabloids and they're kind of,
Or it's all rosy and nice.
It's through channels that are approved, because they're generally perceived as fake anyway, not.
Well, I did do my forecasts for media, to be honest with you, but I just couldn't get through. I was like, I know I need to do this, but I can't seem to do it. So even with the crystal grid, I knew there was one more layer. And so I prayed, and I had the idea to Google Buckingham Palace intruder. And I discovered that in the 1970s, a young man scaled the gates of Buckingham Palace, crawled across the roof, helped himself to some red wine in the palace, and then sat on Queen Elizabeth's bed for 20 minutes and chatted to her while she called security.
Wow.
And so I did the numbers for that young man, and he was the same number as me.
Oh my goodness.
And as soon as I figured that out, I got into the charts. I can't even explain it because my work is pretty nerdy, but I just knew that if he could do it, I could do it. And I just went straight in. Wow. And I published my reports on the media, and then I said Harry was leaving, and 9 days later he left. Now, I've done those a few years now, and probably in the last few weeks I wrote Mary would be queen. 48 hours later they announced she'd be queen. Margaret was stepping down. Margaret is the 7, and the year for the 7's just ended. Mary's an 8, and the year for the 8's just starting. And so I've predicted some pretty big things. I've also predicted the name of Harry's child, when they would move to the States, the Netflix deal, the book. But here's the thing. I did it in a way that you can see it. It's all in the charts. Everything is just right there. Anyone could actually look at this information. Mary becoming queen was so obvious because she's got 4 children. All 4 of her children have a massive turning point right now and for the next few months. Lifetime turning point.
So the alignments. So you're looking, like, because I was just trying to think, you're looking at the numbers, creating a picture, or is it like a book and a language? But then I'm realizing it's actually like you're looking at
maps.
You're doing the maps. Okay.
So most people look at one person's map. They go, like, I've done the Trump families, I've done Elon Musk, because I just like, the more controversial the better for me. It's not even about liking, it's just about educating people and getting them into numerology. But honestly,
Trump's, I'd love to.
I've done the whole families though. Yeah. So you can't see the future in one person's chart easily. You have to be very psychic. When I laid out Mary Frederick, I put the 4 kids there, clear as day. Something was about to happen now.
Wow.
And I'm telling you that people in royalty, people in leadership positions, they have people like me working for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Look at how much is at stake.
Yeah.
All their rivals are doing it, and so they'll never tell you. But of course they do it. How do you think they stay in power? And so my passion is to show that it's actually not as hard as you think. You do need to be a bit nerdy to start with, but, maybe just, you build your way up to that. And then you have that power for your family and your children, and then you can have a voice in this chaotic world. So I want to take the so-called success stories of those in power, and I want to distill that into education and give that to the community. It's a very, very strong, it's basically my destiny. And I think of it like Robin Hooding.
Yes, I'm literally getting, because even when you talk about the leaders having people like yourself in their guidance team, like the kings used to have on the courts, the joker or the jester, the religious person, that all these different people that they would consult. And there would always be, a crone who was the crystal ball gazer, or
they're protecting the energy. Most of the time, they're basically a spiritual bodyguard. So Prince Charles, and I only discovered this when I did the forecast for him this year, which, by the way, was really hard. Charles's one was really hard this year. And he's had a spiritual guru most of his life, although his guru is I think he's a bit dodgy. And so Charles has had a guru. Diana, we know, had many psychics, and 100% they use them. In fact, the White House was full of psychics openly. Lincoln had a whole bunch of mediums in there, and one said he'd be assassinated, and he didn't listen, and then he got assassinated that night.
Wow.
So one of the challenges of this type of work is you gotta let go of the outcome. That's really hard, by the way. It's really hard.
It's
you
hard
really
for
want to say I told you so. It's really hard.
Is this part of, back at the beginning when you were talking about remembering and choosing, your body and all of it coming through? Yep. Did you choose this path back then, or was this something that just it came to you, or is it?
I'm also grappling with that. Because when I was younger, I just wanted to be a hairdresser, actually. And then I wanted to be an astronaut, and then I thought maybe I would part-time between both jobs.
Epic.
And then at one point, I then decided I would be a gossip columnist because I love talking, and my parents obviously vetoed all 3 options because I was meant to be a doctor. But I think I've always loved secrets. I love secrets. people tease me, but I just love secrets. It makes me happy. I don't really tell anyone most of them, but I just like knowing. And it makes me happy when I see people relieved of their heaviness. And obviously I transmute that energy as much as I can into love and nature and all the nice things. But I think of myself as an energy transformer, and I'm obviously fortunate to have several very good mentors, many colleagues, many clients. One of the things actually because I help a lot of people to launch into the spiritual industry, you must have all quadrants. So you need followers to push you forwards. You need colleagues to keep you accountable. You need mentors to draw you forwards, and need your own inner guidance so that you don't lose your way. And it's exactly like an ancestral system. Children, siblings, older people, and then that internal leadership, internal parent.
Beautiful.
So these are all very, to me, quite simple concepts, but many times I see people, the biggest lack I see in the spiritual industry is actually mentorship, the lack of elders. I think because of the pace of the spiritual industry and the pressure and expectation, a lot of the elders leave as soon as they can. And then you just always got a lot of young'uns coming in, and it's a little bit just like the front line of a war, just like cannon fodder. Oh, it's not that hard to be a psychic, and 1 year later, I went back and got a job.
Yeah,
right.
It's really hard to be a psychic because I tell you what, you get all the stuff they don't bring to the psychologists. They don't bring it to their, you get all the rest, the things they can't tell anyone, and then you don't even have like a union to protect you. So it's not like you get fair pay or anything. You don't get days off. You have to be very self-advocating.
Or a break from it.
No. When you're a psychic, people just call you all the time, and they just don't even think about it. So that's why I have 2 phones. It's one of the things I teach all my leaders who I work with. 2 phones, one work phone, one personal. And the ones who are like, oh, I don't have that many clients. I'm like, that's why you don't have many clients, because you mix the energies. Obviously, I'm sounding a bit black and white. It's not perfect. Look, not everyone needs to do it. But I know for me, I need to be able to put my work phone down and walk away.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Walk away. Hands up and walk away, right?
I agree.
Put the gun down.
Yeah.
Put the gun down. We'll take it from here.
Exactly. No, one of
it's
our
so
words for
powerful.
last year was discerning, and also healthy boundaries was a very big
Absolutely.
presentation, and I think that's exactly what you're describing, is if you have able to have continuity in any industry or any pursuit, but particularly energy work and particularly psychic work, you need to have that as a big part of your foundation so that you're able to, self-preserve and continue.
Yeah.
A lot of people are accurate psychics, but very few will ever make money from it, and even less will do media, and even less will last a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I've come from fundraising and science. I had a business background. It's really helped. Also being Asian and just tough ass helped. But I think what helped the most, to be honest, was actually studying what I saw. And what I keep seeing is they're like, oh, this is really easy, and then they just disappear. They just don't answer their phone, their website. How often do you go to the website for a psychic or healer and, oh, this domain no longer exists.
Yeah.
Or they've been updated for 10 years.
And so my take on that is, in the olden days, they would burn you, and now you just burn yourself. You just burn yourself out. What's the difference? There's no difference. In fact, it's probably cheaper for them. So people need to be very careful.
Yeah.
It's the energy is still there. That's how you censor someone, is you burn them out.
I'm going to bring it back
I
to
love
you.
that.
Thank you.
Beautiful
Thank you.
lady.
Yeah.
Thank you for that information too. I think that's powerful too, just to separate the lines of work and
You've got to put it down.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great feedback. Since you've noticed these shifts in the world, and like we've learned a few things around what's right, what's wrong, who's right, who's wrong. What have you decided to change, if anything, in your world?
Oh, that's a good question. To deal with my own addictions to rescuing. I realized early on that I wanted to be an environmentalist because I couldn't change my family, especially my mum. I felt like if I could save the planet, that would make me a good person again. Eventually, I came back to square one and realized that I was just yelling into the wilderness. And I started to do the one-on-one work instead of trying to save all the turtles and the elephants and the whales and things.
Is that what took you into the UN? Is that your degree?
Yeah, I was working in turtle conservation after the tsunami. So
Wow.
I realized that my work is very much about the mother spirit. And honestly, psychic ability exists to keep children alive. The most psychic person is a pregnant woman.
Oh, yes.
And the suppression of psychics is the suppression of a mother's voice. Now, people will argue with me and they'll say, oh, men can be really intuitive. I'm like, show me the mother. The mother will have been intuitive and she will have coached her son. I may be proven wrong. Look, I may be for sure, but I tell you what, the guy psychics I see, whether they're gay or they have a strong female figure around them, there's still the goddess next to them. There's a respect for the goddess. And so when we talk about burnout, it's exactly like what happens to mothers. You have a kid and you just burn out, so then you can't really mother. And then the child grows up and they can't really mother themselves. There's an enormous power in a mother being a little bit selfish, and there's an enormous power in a healer being a little bit selfish, because you're basically showing them that it's not even about what you do, it's about just staying alive long enough to figure it out. If you don't stay alive long enough to figure it out, you're not there to guide them at the vital moment when they're about to, I don't know, take the drug or sleep with the toxic person. You're not there as an energy, and you're not there as a person. It's difficult. I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Like
I
have way too many ideas for my brain, but at the same time, I have the fortunate position of being able to yak on about it and be paid. Yay. So, but I'm aware that obviously very easy for me to say those things, but lifetimes to enact.
Well, and is it really easy? Because you can feel the depth of what it is that you're saying. It's not just a concept, it's coming from you, and we're feeling it in our essence as well. There's a frequency, there's a energy there in it that is a certainty, that is so powerful and so real. So it's not just a concept that you're sharing, it's a realness. And I think anyone who's just listened to that is going to be feeling that and probably repeat it rewind to repeat just to hear that again, because you take the what these very prevalent energies around the divine masculine and divine feminine are all about, rising up in all of us to really clear and move forward with, in a very big way. You've just taken that to a whole new depth of meaning of what it means to honour the mother.
My mother's very good at saying no. She was not a fan of me leaving a high-flying fundraising career to become a palm reader at the markets in Brisbane. And I was like, Mum, look at the potatoes I got. She's like, you were just about to hit 6 figures. I'm like, yes, but look at the potatoes, Mum. Anyway, so that was yes, and I did. That was about the time I did start eating organic, and it was really hard. My family probably still hasn't recovered, I'll be honest. But and for a long time they were just like, well, just any time you can go to be a doctor. You're still not too late to be a doctor. I'm like, yes.
You have been a doctor. You've been a soul doctor. You've been an energy
well,
doctor.
Thank you. It's
back to that how you
sometimes there's an overlap, but it took many years, and I kept feeling like I was still trying to prove myself that I hadn't made a mistake. So I've taught a lot of classes, but I finally did this class, and it was called Why You Chose Your Mother. And I knew by calling it that I would get a lot of complaints, and I had many angry emails. How dare you imply I chose my mother? And I said,
wow.
You need my class. And I'd be like, here's a discount code. Clearly you are in pain and I can assist you. Anyway, so I knew that would set people off, because I'd already run Why Your Child Chose You, and that was okay. People were like, my baby chose me. I'm like, that's fine.
But 16,
but then when it was like Why You Chose Your Mother, which is the same concept, they're like, F you, bitch.
I wouldn't have chosen her.
And so many of them were like, my mother's a narcissist, I would have never chosen her. And I'm like, I think this is a whole new side business. Anyway, so I did this class, and in the class I joke about my mum, who is an 8, so she'll have a great year this year. And I joke about her and I say, like, honestly, the greatest lesson she gave me is she just says no. And there's no like, no because, or no and. It was just nope. And that was it. That was it. And I'd be like, there's just nothing to work with. this woman is just impossible, right? I just couldn't talk her. I couldn't, and she'd just be like, nope. And then I sent her the class. I said, Mom, I know you never like listen to my stuff, but I've just done a whole class about you. And she's like, oh, okay. Aww. And she watched it and she said, I really like that. And I've got this one message from my mum after doing, 5,000-6,000 readings, and that message is still my favorite. She's like, this is pretty good.
This is what I was talking about with the different way abundance comes through, because it's like I'm finding that the little synchronicities that happen, they fill me up. Like sometimes they've brought me to tears. I've had that much joy in those little beautiful gifts that have no monetary value to them, but they fill me up more than anything else. And I can imagine that letter from your mum would be like her saying to you,
that was $1 million. That was $1 million for me.
Yeah.
I have a lot of I'm creating more and more things on money, but interestingly, so money comes from Moneta, Moneta, do you know Moneta, the goddess?
No.
And so it was minted in her temple, and it was minted in her temple to reward Juno for warning the soldiers of war. So money was actually created to honor women who helped others to avoid danger. And so that's in my class, Change for Good. And honestly, I encourage women to keep a photo of Juno in their, she is one of the mother goddesses in their wallet.
Everybody's writing this down right now.
And do the research, because I'm not pulling your leg here. Obviously, there is more than one story to this, but money was always a reward for wisdom. And I think that wisdom is its own reward, let's be honest, because it saves us, it protects us, it energizes and conserves us. But money is necessary to speak to certain people. There are certain people who only speak money, and we do need to keep a bit of money for the times when we need to engage with those people. They simply don't accept any other currency. So you need a little bit in your back pocket. But, the more and more that you change up who you work with, exchange, barter, all kinds of things becomes possible. But like I said, some people only speak money. And I think that's okay. Especially when you travel to, I suppose, developing countries, and their love language is money. And I'm okay with that.
They have everything else they need generally.
Well, they have a lot of community, but I think having done a lot of charity work, money is very powerful. Also, I wanted to just, because I do a lot of word magic, when you look at the word money and you take it apart, it becomes my one. And so some people don't understand that when you set aside money, you set aside energy for your future self. And so it's not about you, it's about your future self. Think about her. She might need a really nice padded rocking chair instead of a milk crate. But it's hard. Look, I get it. I mean, it's easier said than done. It's just, I need to bring it to the attention, because a lot of my work is around helping people get into that spiritual field, and then sort of holding their hand the moment they go, oh, it's not all love and light. And I say, correct. It's basically like a pharmacy, and they have nicer teeth. And because they're just dispensing whatever. Let me give you this healing stone, and this ointment will fix all your ailments. And, you get a lot of people go, oh, no one believes in that. I'm like, a lot of people believe in it. And probably your mum, your sister, your children believe in it. Even though you don't believe in it, you better be, you better know what's going on, because they are digging into that minefield even when you're not looking.
We're constantly being sold stuff and caught up in the hype of something, with it not necessarily being about the stuff.
This is going to get so strong. Pluto in Aquarius this year, you'll get a lot of people coming out as psychics, and I'm excited because obviously I work in that field and I try to create some integrity, but I'm also terrified. One of my most popular articles is all the crazy things psychics have told me. Many crazy things, and we're talking about things that really are not allowed to be said, but let me just put it actually more succinctly, because I don't want to ramble. This is so important. I don't want to waste your time. But I remember when I was choosing and I went, oh, look, I could easily be a life coach. A lot of 11s are life coaches, like Napoleon Hill, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Gabby Bernstein. I was like, I could easily be a life coach. And I talked to this master life coach who runs a life coaching school, and he said, no, dude, you should be a psychic, because in life coaching, you actually have to follow all these rules of what you say and do. You can pretty much be like, my guides told me that. And
Free
I went,
reign,
yes, you're right. And that's a field where I need to be, because that's a field where people are probably getting hurt. And there will eventually probably be some regulation, but at the moment it's yeah, it's pretty open, I'll be honest, and the internet's made it even more open. You've got a lot of people doing readings and just giving advice. And again, people say, oh, I didn't take it seriously. But when you really question, they go, yeah, actually a psychic told me I would never fall in love or I'd never have a child. And at a deep subconscious level, I believe them because I don't feel in touch with my own intuition. So I want to bring up people's intuition so that they can say no to dodgy psychics. I also want to help psychics to have structure by learning modalities which are a little more scientific. And that's keeping me very, very busy. That's for sure.
It's amazing, and it's true what you're saying about,
informed consumers are important. That's very important for me.
Yeah.
Yes, on every level. Like in my business with Mayala, it's about, there's so many products out there that people can choose, skin, etc. Like any work. I'm just trying to think of like there's nothing that is barred from that. Like informed consumerism on every level, I think is one of the
Read the ingredients.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
People don't read the ingredients.
Why not apply that to everything that you do?
Everybody's got so good at marketing. I mean, we're totally getting off track, but everybody's got so good at Instagram marketing. I feel like
that's on track.
It's like
on track.
It's a formula in itself.
Yes.
It's just a formula.
I have always read the ingredients. Even when I was little, I always read the ingredients to try to teach myself like words. And I'm very clear about where did I learn this? Where did it come from? What is this meditation for? Where did it come from? Who have I tested it with? Many people go, I don't know, like follow my diet. And I'll be like, well, you have no qualifications and where's the evidence? And all your reviews are 5-star. And for me, that's a red flag. But not everyone has that critical thinking. And I guess I'm trying my best to bring it back. It's going to take a whole bunch of people. I'm only one of many voices in that area, but I want someone who pushes back. And I do have clients like that. They'll say, did you make that calculation wrong? That doesn't look like, and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool, let's correct it together. Or something like, they'll go, I don't agree with that. I'll go, okay, well, this is where it came from. And they'll go, well, blah, blah, blah. And I go, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll adjust this, or maybe I need to actually explain it better to you. There's a lot of give and take. And I feel like that in itself is extremely powerful, because a lot of psychic readings or healings, it's very one-way street. And that's how doctors used to be. Now doctors theoretically are supposed to do a lot more consulting. But there's still a lot of psychics and healers who are very like, this is the way. And this sometimes they have to be, because they don't have much time or they're not getting paid much, so there's just not a lot of energy pool there. But I think that's why I try to charge enough that I have the energy to have a full conversation and be around long enough that they can complete the journey.
This is perfect, because I think it leads straight into our next question. And I know that you actually brought up organic food just a moment ago, but what have you had to give up along this journey?
Because you mentioned your health before.
So many things.
So did you
so
change
many things.
the food? Like I know you mentioned organic food too. Was that something that you...
Yeah, I had to give up cheese. It took me 5 years to give up cheese.
Yeah.
Most people will be like, just block my ears. Don't talk, Sarah, don't talk. Yeah, for me, cheese was blocking me something huge. I was born dairy intolerant. I just conveniently ignored it.
Which most of us do, yes.
I was literally, I had a milk allergy from birth, but I mean, if you've had milk, you know how good it is. And it took me 5 years to get myself off the cheese. Bloody hell. That's like the hardest part of my spiritual journey.
I have to say I agree with
I had a few lapses.
Did you?
Oh, look, for me, and because I already knew I had the allergy, I mean, it was pretty much a no-brainer. But if you fight your body, you don't have the energy to go anywhere, really. You're just going to go in circles with your awakening. But damn, that was a high price to pay. I tell you what. And that was before the vegan cheeses were any good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, it is so painful to do this. And then eventually the vegan cheeses got so good that I don't even miss it.
Yeah.
Thank God. And it's like the world finally caught up. So yeah, I'm gluten and dairy free. That's not for everyone, but for me, it seemed to work to cut out a lot of the junk I ate. Obviously, yeah, really good water. I am quite impatient with the people I work with, in terms of, I used to do a lot of free on Facebook. I'd answer thousands of questions every year.
Yes.
And so I turned off, this is like almost like a dietary change, I turned off messages in Facebook, and much to people's disgust. But what I did a calculation, because, you know me, nerd. And I looked out of the 1,000 people I'd written back to, I think maybe 20% said thank you. Yeah. And maybe 2% booked in. And I thought, I am literally creating a monster. This is like making it harder for everyone else, because it's training all these people to basically pillage, which is exactly what I was fighting against when I worked in litter prevention and conservation. I went, I see this is what I'm up against. And so I turned that off, and now they have to be in one of my groups to ask me a question. Every now and then I'll do a little bit of free stuff, but there is no real free. It's costing someone somewhere. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not sweating.
You're still very generous, though.
Yes.
I have a lot. I have some karma. I think I'm clearing. I'll be honest. There's some karma there, but also I have autism, and I think that's part of it. I don't really stop. Yeah. So there's a cost to my generosity, and I think often it is actually my own time. I am making a lot of shifts right now, actually, to take that back, because the kids are so adorable, and I want to spend more time with them. But you know, the best way I would explain it is, I always knew in the early part of my spiritual career, which I do think I planned now that I look back, I knew I'd have to work my ass off, because I was coming in with no lineage. Oh, who's your Reiki teacher? I mean, like, I didn't have much lineage. I had to like pay a lot of people to train me up and read a lot of books, and really had to almost like start from ground zero. I knew I'd have to work really hard, and then I knew there would come a tipping point, and I would be able to actually relax a bit. And that's right now in my chart. My chart shows at 43 I can do that, and I turned 43 in about a week. So I'm talking to you at the tipping point. I'm feeling really good about it, but I don't think everyone needs to do what I've done, because I've done it. So you know what I mean? Like, why are you reinventing the wheel? I'm just hoping I've opened the door for a lot of other people to come in and kind of do their own thing. I hope I've made it easier, actually, for other people.
No doubt
you have.
Very prolific with what you provide for people to access for free, let alone the engaging aspects of what you do. But when just going back to what you said around lineage, what do you mean by that? Because I'm imagining
I don't have a family of 5th generation tarot readers. All my family are teachers, and they still think I'm completely nuts. But I think, because I've been in the industry now 16 years and I haven't wavered, and I did meet my husband within 2 weeks of jumping, I think there's some okayness now, and probably in myself I'm so much more calmer about it that there's less need to get that mirrored. But yeah, my family were all teachers, and so I actually, it's so funny, but yeah, a lot of my work is teaching. It's just I'm teaching a topic that's not got as many textbooks.
I just want to talk about what you just said, the jumping, because
the leap. I call it the 11-11 flip.
Yes,
or the leap of faith.
Chat. We've got a few more questions, but I kind of feel like that question and your view around that is really important for our listeners.
Just say that again so I can.
The when you say jumping, you know, when you make
a jump
the jump
point.
Yeah, the jump point. Can you explain that? Like,
sure. Well, I'll just give you a direct example. I knew that I needed to change my life.
How old were you?
Oh, this was when I was just about to start the business. Yeah, so it was in my 20s. I started the business 26, 27.
Yeah, and had you already stepped out of government?
I had been a whistleblower at the United Nations for harassment. That was absolutely traumatic.
Wow.
And I basically killed my career with a couple of emails. And that was dead. That was dead, all that whole career. I had my quarter life crisis. Boom. So I went on a trip to India by myself. When I did that, it was for my friend's wedding. This is my jump point. I went on a tour by myself.
Every time you say that word, I literally just go, like I just want to cry.
Oh, maybe I should slow down.
No, it's perfect. It's so beautiful.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Yes, I went to India by myself. I've always been pretty good at traveling by myself. And not that we're ever really alone. I mean, what a fallacy. But yeah, I remember I went on this tour and there's all these guys. We were whitewater rafting and then they all just wanted to jump off this huge rock into the Ganges. And I'm thinking, this is a really bad idea. If my mum was here, she would not approve. No one in my family would think this was a good idea. Therefore, I should definitely do it. And so I'm standing on the rock. There's no safety. It's not that safe. Really, if I die, I'm dead. You know, like if anything. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, everyone else is jumping. What do I do? So I'm standing there and they're all the guys are pushing me because I'm just standing there and they all want to jump. And my tour guide, he comes up and I still get emotional. He'd only met me for an hour. He comes up and he goes, I will jump with you. And that's what a jump is.
Yeah.
And he held my hand and he jumped with me. And as we jumped, I just knew who I was. It was that jump. And I jumped into the water and got the world's biggest wedgie. And then I was like,
the spiritual river of
I was like, let's do it again. And we didn't have time, but that was my jump. And I came back.
Jump.
I came back. I did a fire walk. I did a personal growth course. I started this business in a room, but physically I jumped. And I mean, I was a kid who never even climbed a tree. Like I just read books. I was reading by 2 and Shakespeare by 4. So I mean, I just never did anything like fun like that. So yeah, jumping off a rock was literally my jump point. And I just knew that I was the type of person who could help others the same way that guy helped me.
Wow.
And I could jump with them. And I never saw him again. I did write him an email a long time later, but I think that's what I mean by a jump. And so when I do it with people, it's like, say they want to have a baby, or they find a soulmate, or often it is, starting a spiritual business and everyone thinks they're crazy. And I'll just be like, it's not even about what I say to you. I just need to be here and you need to know that I'm a jumper too.
Yeah.
And they jump. Sometimes they text me straight after, like, I quit my job. I'm like, whoa, we talked about doing that in 6 months. No, it's not so bad now because I've learned to refine how I message. I used to be probably a little bit more spontaneous. Now that I've had kids, I'm more like, okay, let's just plot this out a bit.
Yeah. Same as like when you're pregnant or had children and you watch a commercial or a movie and you just start crying uncontrollably, whereas before you were just like, didn't even touch you, like you're just so activated in so many ways.
I just love how you've just
people see me and they jump.
That. It's really beautiful,
either for joy or out of my way. I have actually had people leave screaming from my workshops. My record is I think 2 minutes. I went to Mind, Body, Spirit and I taught workshops, and I went through all the life paths, and I went through life path 1 and I said, really, they're just here to put themselves first and be a leader. And then this guy starts getting really itchy and he starts yawning, and I'm like, are you a 1? And he goes, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then I said, do you want to go? He's like, yes, I just wanted to hear about myself. So I refunded him, and that was
wow.
Everyone laughed, and I said, just remember, that's a 1. They know what they want. In, out, bye, see ya.
Wow.
And so
very literal.
But I've also had people actually leave kind of screaming, like just get up and go, I have to go, and just walk out the door. So I've gotten better at not triggering people so quickly.
I think it's a good thing. I love it too.
I was probably a little bit abrupt when I was younger as well. I had anorexia, plus I probably didn't realize how I was coming across as much. Now that I've done media, I've watched myself and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So now I try to actually hold space more. But yeah, in general, I've got a very urgent energy, and people tend to just be like, oh shit, get your stuff together, Sarah's coming. That's just always been a thing for me.
Is that, I know you mentioned before about your ADHD, is it?
Well, I have autism. I mean, I probably have some ADHD, but, again, with the wordplay, I say, is it autistic or artistic?
Yes.
And when they talk about Aspies, because I've what they used to call Asperger's, I say Aspie or SB, ESPE, because a lot of Aspies are psychic.
Yeah.
Because we can't, how do we put this? We can't go through one door, so we've learned how to climb through that really high window no one else can climb through.
Or even notice that it's there.
Yes, correct. So, I mean, I had a lot of trouble I've always had a lot of issues in partnerships and relationships because I just assume everyone's like me. Incorrect assumption. But I had so much trouble understanding people that personality analysis was a godsend. And even as a child, I was studying body language books, astrology. I was always secretly very interested in understanding people because I felt so misunderstood.
And isn't that the most incredible gift? Like, I think Richard Branson gave a lot of people the greatest gift as a dyslexic for being who he is in the world, because created a comfort zone or understanding of themselves around, well, I'm not limited because of how I read or see things or express myself. And I think the being neurodivergent is so dominant now in society, and perhaps it's only because we're recognizing it as something. It's changing so many dynamics, but every person I speak to who has some spectrum diversity happening, they will say exactly what you just said, that in an effort to know how they functioned, they explored other people, learnt around so many different things just to survive, just to be a part of society, just to be able to do ABC in their way of what ABC was. It's I think in the way that we've been talking around the world being upside down and back to front, I love the way that being on different spectrums is actually more normal than being normal. And the world is, what the gift of what being neurodivergent is bringing is flipping the world so that we can see better, so we can understand more, be more awake, and recognize more of what is actually literally underneath us and around us.
Definitely.
So
we're going to keep moving because we've already gone an hour, which has flown.
That was easy.
So we're going to jump. I want to jump onto this question.
Did you say my favorite 4-letter word?
Jump. I just love that word.
I think I've got to tell you one more story.
I'm 5'11". I'm almost 6 foot tall.
You're tall.
I'm in the top 1st percentile for Asians. So a lot of people always ask if I played basketball, which I did. And so when I was younger, my parents, because they're Asian or whatever, they always said, oh my God, just stop jumping. Stop jumping because it's making you really tall.
Oh my God.
And I would say, I'm pretty sure it's genetics, but okay. and I would try really hard but I was just always like a bouncy little kid. And they were just like, oh no one will ever marry you. And I'm like, no Asian guy will ever marry me. And they're like, oh no.
Oh wow.
Not a white guy. And then I married like a short white guy. And then that was even more ironic. But anyway, no, he's actually Eurasian. I'm kidding. But the jumping thing, I was always told not to jump. Please don't run. Please don't jump. You'll fall down.
So the
I was clumsy. I was a clumsy
must be the problem.
child. I had a lot of coordination issues, and I fell down a lot. So my mum was just like, please just don't do anything. And I'd be like, okay, and I would just meditate. I'd literally sit there. I would create these wild visualizations, and I'd like cleanse the house and build tunnels under the house because there was a lot of like, just please stop hurting yourself. So you're right, it's a survival tactic, but because it's a survival tactic, it's so easy for me. Whereas when I have obviously tried to teach people to be numerologists, and I've started to realize I pretty much have to work with people who've done it in a past life, because I go pretty fast. Fortunately, it appears that it was well studied, so it's not as hard as I thought. There's a lot of people who seem to have the knowledge already. Thank God.
Yes, well, a lot more people are asking more questions.
A lot of people have studied numerology before, and a lot of those people come to me, and then we're like, oh, you again, hey.
Yeah, yes.
Full circle.
Yeah, it's really nice. I get a lot of people, and they come, and they're like,
have we met
I've actually had people approach me and say, oh, you were my past life teacher. And I go,
oh, wow.
That was before I believed in past lives. A healer came up, and she said, oh, you were my past life teacher in like Tibet. And I went, really? And she says, you were so hard ass. And I said, that would be me.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yes.
She's like, if I made a mistake, you'd be like, and I'm like, yes, that's definitely me. You have identified, you know what I mean? Yeah, tick. Apparently I taught herbs or something. But yeah, I would have been, because I always think, it's forever. Everything we do is forever. If you're going to do it, like, don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
So I am tough. I make people do their own numerology. I'll be like, we do it together. I don't just do it for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to just lean on me like some suckerfish.
It's not a cushion. It becomes real embodiment. It's embodiment when you do it that way, isn't it? With the person, as opposed to
I think it's super annoying when you create dependency. Not that I've certainly done it in the past, but to create dependency is to stay in captivity yourself. You can never be liberated. You really want to be someone who has lots of things to do, and that gives you that pressure to kind of get the job done well and get out of there. Like a mum.
Yeah, like a mum. And it's like when you turn the Facebook comments off, you know, you basically set yourself free to do more
Facebook
as well
messages,
as not sucker fishing people.
Well, in the end, you know what I realised? A lot of them would like also attack me privately. And so now they have to attack me publicly. And my people are like, on. You try to attack me, boom, fish. Like 20, and I have trained my people, because we do always a lot of throat chakra work, and I'm very pleased when I watch it unfold, and I do this with my fingers. Yeah, someone will be like,
scientist.
I don't believe in numerology. Boom, and I'm like, my plan has worked.
Who is that? That's in the moon, like the spy movies, and the bad guy that goes.
Probably. I don't know.
But it's like you're the good guy going.
Is it Inspector Gadget? I don't know.
Yes, any of those things. It's
all right,
fantastic.
we're going to jump on just so we can
finish.
Get these last questions done.
We haven't even done your numerology. I feel so embarrassed.
No, don't be silly. What do you do now to support yourself for staying in the moment?
With 3 young children who love to keep you.
Do you have like a
a mum face?
No. Like, do you have some kind? A lot of people say they have a mantra or a
taser. I love where she keeps going when you prompting something. I'm thinking back to when you were young and your mum said don't jump, and you went into meditation and building mine shafts under the house. I'm like, literally, that must have been a great skill to cultivate as a young person.
Is there somewhere that you need to go into that space that you go into?
Yeah, so I've recorded a lot of meditations, and none of them are over 15 minutes because of my short attention span. And so I listen to my own meditations, and a lot of them are free. They're on Insight Timer, and one of them I've listened to before every reading. So in the time I've created it, so I've listened to it at least 1,000 times. Wow. Every time I listen to a meditation, obviously I activate it. And so that's why I then share those meditations, and I share it with people who I want to listen to it. When someone listens to your work or reads your work, they actually send you a little bit of energy. And so you actually want to be careful who is listening to your work or who is reading it to some extent. And I do these little 10-minute things. I also have a lot of trance healing I do on myself, but all of it would be taking under 5 minutes. I do like color healing, all kinds of things. A lot of these things I've been doing since I was a child. I basically do little mini trance healings. And I also learned past life regression. I also learned hypnosis when I was a teenager. So I'll just hypnotize myself for even sometimes a few seconds, fill up my energy and keep going. And I get a lot of people say, I don't know how you do it. Yeah. And I say, I have a very powerful way of refilling in the moment. I could just sit here and refill. Yeah. And then I'm pretty good. Yeah. But I physically do things, like float tanks, massage. I do like self-massage, self-Reiki. Obviously a lot of grounding. I have a lot of good people helping me, but I'd say the trance healings. Also I use a lot of sound. I sing, I chant, I tone, I use specific music, and I think sound is instant. So if you work with sound, you will increase your capacity, that's for sure. I love sound is definitely the new black. A lot of people's eyes are exhausted from all the stuff that we've seen in the world, and so now the ears are the next frontier. And so I really encourage people to record their own meditations for themselves and their children. I mean, honestly, why do you play your kids all this music by people you don't even know? Like, make up songs with your kids. It's so much more powerful. I think sound is the new frontier.
And you were speaking before around you mentioned when we were talking about ears, but you were also talking with we've listened to some of your meditations, and you don't have music in all of your meditations.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
And you were saying around the voice being the raw energy, the power of the voice, and also you spoke around the throat chakra being one of the things that you do a lot of work around. So
I help a lot of people who feel like if they speak they'll be persecuted. I help those people to realize that it's safer in the light. In the light, your allies can find you, and so can your bullies, but your bullies will be annihilated by your allies. Ha ha ha. And so it's nice. It's a nice idea to think if you stay in the dark, if you don't publish, if you don't write a blog, if you don't have like that, you are safe. But actually, you're really vulnerable. You're incredibly vulnerable. You always have to look out for things, and you will never really reach your potential. So it's safer in the light. Sorry, that was a bit of a roundabout answer.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Now, our last question, I know that we'll probably go for a little bit over. Are you okay with maybe 5 minutes longer? Yep. This question's for you is going to be big, I know. So how do you see the world now? And I know that it's through numbers and through what you see through your third eye, but also around this concept of 13 months and that our new year, we haven't begun our new year, and all of that. So can we kind of squish that together?
Yeah, sure. I just stayed up last night putting together my 2024 forecast, knowing I need this for today. How do I see the world? I'm extremely positive about the future, otherwise I couldn't do what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally sitting across from people conveying that. I work basically in the area of eco-anxiety. I have training in the environment, science and activism and charity movement. I know a lot about the planet, and I work a lot with like the psyche, and I feel extremely comfortable to say to you that Earth is a good place. I look at my children and I think that children like that wouldn't come here if it was going down the sinkhole. I look at the quality of the children coming through and my heart feels full. I think that if you had a company and you feel like it's going bankrupt, but you have those most amazing people coming in, that you need to trust there is a design at work. Earth is going to look different, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I think it will be simpler. I think it will be more like the ancient times, but hopefully with flushing toilets, because I like those. I mean, because in China they have pit latrines, and I'm just like, I just can't do that.
Do you think they'll still have coffee shops?
I don't drink coffee.
They'll have good things.
I don't drink coffee, so I guess that's not high on my list, but we could probably put it down there.
Yeah.
I feel confident. I just look at the children coming through, to be honest. The other thing is, I think we've actually been taught that Earth is a victim. I don't think that's true whatsoever. I think that Earth chooses the souls who come here, and I think it whips our butts if we get out of line. I have just a different concept of Earth. If you look at the word Earth, at the heart of it is the word art. And I just think Earth is an artist, and you can't beat an artist, can you? The artist can always start from scratch. The artist can turn their blood into a masterpiece. The artist can never be beaten. I feel very confident to say that Earth will survive. The other thing I wanted to flip, though, is that the word for Earth, it's the same letters for heart. So when they talk about, I want to save Earth, look after Earth, I'm like, if your heart is full of dismay, literally there's nothing you can do for the Earth. So you make sure that in here there is a song and a dance, and then you can probably contribute. Until then, off you go. Go do your things, because you're not helping. You're not helping. Look after your heart. The heart and the earth are a blood kin. And I don't know, that feels like a little bit random, but it's a lot of the work I do does cross the boundaries of environmental work and activism. I have to be very careful myself, because I almost starved to death because I was trying to eat organic. I was trying to eat no meat, and I almost killed myself because I felt so guilty about the earth. And then I realized through all my training that was another way to burn out the healers. I eat meat. I use it for a good cause. I bless the animals. I'm Chinese. It's part of the culture I come from. I feel okay about it. It works for me.
Consumerism again.
I love that. I love that you just said that.
I don't think that vegetables should be persecuted more than animals.
Exactly.
Vegetables have feelings. I talk to trees every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I just see all the carrots quaking in their little...
Don't pull me up.
All the avocados shaking in their tree. And I just think, why is one species better than another? I absolutely believe vegetation is sentient. I've always talked to plants. Yeah, so I don't know. you've got to question things. Anything that makes you feel bad about your needs, it's probably from the dark forces. Especially if women, and this is a passion of mine, if women need to eat meat in order to conceive or in order to get their body back into health, let them eat meat. Just let them, because they need it.
Absolutely.
Stop making them feel bad.
I like what you just said around, if it makes you feel bad, it's probably from the dark forces. That really just went into my vagus nerve like an arrow, because it's it can be that simple. Like, we attribute how we feeling bad of ourselves, but it's again comes around to that being in the light and having allies and not feeling alone, lost, disconnected by being here, and in feelings and patterns that take us out.
The biggest thing I'm getting from our conversation, which by the way has really helped me too, thank you. Look, I've always believed this, but sterile people sterilize people, and fertile people fertilize people, not necessarily physically, but someone who's really in their joy, they want you to be your fullest self. And so just notice, if your heart is a flower, does it wither? does it wither around certain people? And that's you being a leader, is not spending so much time and energy on people who they just keep shooting you down. I mean, that's your choice.
That's so beautiful.
It's a harsh one though, because sometimes they're your family or they're a partner or they're a child. But at some level, just remember that you have a choice, and your choice is what will change the world.
Yeah, and it's all happening for you, not to you.
It was all signed off upstairs. You got the double signature, you got the stamp, you got the cute little badge.
Of honor.
Yeah.
Earthling.
Absolutely, we chose to come here.
I lost my badge.
Somebody pushed me when I wasn't ready.
I misread the sign.
There's no excuses.
I'm on the wrong bus.
Oh my God, I'm sure we all have moments where we feel that way.
You feel like you're on the wrong bus?
Yeah.
If you feel like you're on the wrong bus, you're probably meant to be the bus driver.
Maybe.
Yeah, usually in those moments is when you actually need to create something that's not there. Like when I felt there was no palm readers my age, because when I joined the Palmistry Guild in Brisbane, the average age was 74.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like 26, and I went, I just need to do something here. So being a typical 11, I started a palmistry group. All I did is I read a book, and in the beginning it was free. It was at New Farm Library, and people came and they thought it was a cult. And so I started charging $10, and then that was okay. That was like less culty.
Yeah. And
all I did is we just read palmistry books together, and then here I am with a business. So like I said, if sometimes you feel like you're on the wrong bus, maybe you need to try driving it before you jump off. Maybe it's actually your bus and you're just waiting for yourself.
That's a great way to end right there. That is so powerful and so beautiful.
Because literally we could just keep talking
We
with
could.
you, Sarah,
No,
for
that's
another 3
okay.
hours.
We can maybe later.
I was going to say
think, yeah.
maybe another time where we could get on and talk about something maybe that you choose specifically about, because I think that would be really powerful for our listeners.
Sure, we could do probably more of the numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I really appreciate the opportunity to do something that wasn't just 11:11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because I do talk about that every single day.
Well, it's about you. You are a beautiful, unique expression in
such an incredible
itself,
woman.
and we know that. We've felt that right from the moment
thanks.
that we met you, and you are doing amazing things in your own space, which is really powerful.
And abundantly.
Yeah.
Even though you've self-attributed different motives or selfishness, if you want to use that word, it's very generously, as you said, Joe. Like
absolutely.
your abundance of what you're sharing with the world is very generous and highly energetic and highly activating, and the frequency is.
Thanks.
Is real.
I have actually, because I do follow up everything I do, and I always keep track of everyone. Like pretty much everyone I work with, they will raise their prices. Every single person will raise their prices. It might be their money prices, or it could be their self-worth. but I'm almost every single time. And I think because there's just so much room to move in this world. And I know personally I've like put my prices up maybe 15 times, and every single time my business has gone up.
Yeah.
Because I've matched it, and I've evolved, and I've pushed myself, and I've gone there. And I just, basically how I think of it is I used to be so academic, and I always just wanted to get 100%. That's a really good quality in the work I do, because accuracy actually can really help people. But it is important to have money.
Yeah, of
Without
course.
money, your future self doesn't have the cushion on the rocking chair, and she's like, oh man, I got a blister, I got a split my butt. You know, you don't want to be that granny who's like rubbing the butt.
No, well, we live on this planet,
Hobbling.
and you know, we need to live, and part of that is through money.
And money can buy microphones.
Absolutely.
And it's an important conversation. Perhaps, that's something else to do later. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome, and I know
Thank
our
you.
listeners will be like, where do we get a hold of you? I'm ready to jump. I just need someone's hand to hold.
There's
so
an effort
we are
website.
going to put everything
Yes.
down
The labyrinth.
on the bottom of the...
Yeah, we just call that the labyrinth.
The
now.
labyrinth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because people go in and they don't come out for 8 hours. Actually, a lot of people, they're like, oh, you've got a website. I'll just have a quick look. And I say, so just bring like 2 liters of water and 3 sandwiches and a blanket, because you'll be coming out in about usually 6 to 8 hours is the first visit.
Yeah.
So, right?
Oh, it's so true.
And they're like, I couldn't stop clicking. And I say, yes,
There's so much,
I warned you.
so much information.
And it's fun. It's not, it's
Yeah.
really fun. Which, as Joe pulled the card today, was play.
Yeah.
And there's been an element of that all the way through, just in yourself, bringing a lot of joy. So when you were sharing before around, you can't be a misery guts and expect change to happen or life to be good
Wow.
for this
Well,
earth.
you can be a misery guts and expect change to happen, but you'll just be more miserable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you can if you really want to do it.
That's
It's
true.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I say to my kids. It's you can cry. It's just nothing will change. Like but cry as much as you then and then dance in park. But
think the Grinch. Let your heart grow.
Yeah. I think it's important to be grumpy at appropriate times, especially when people, they do the graspy. Appropriate grumpiness, driving buses. What else was there?
Jumping.
Jump.
Yeah, we did
Yes.
the jumping. Yeah.
Jump.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think my last thing was, I always say to people, I'm basically your friendly pal, your friendly pushy Asian lady. And so if you can't work with me, just find one in your local neighborhood, make friends,
Beautiful.
cross-cultural harmony.
Yeah.
But, in Asia, a lot of the women, they have to run the businesses, they have to run things and without much support.
Yeah.
And so there is a cross-cultural blessing, I think, being an Australian working with you, and I'm glad that we could have such a lovely talk. And I'm always learning, when you're talking to me too. But there's something to be said for the pushy Asian lady. I'd say this is the energy for the 8 year coming up. It's a very, very lucky year for Asia, and that Eastern way of doing things with people rather than to people.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah.
Catch you next time.
Yeah, see you
I
soon.
talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.
Thank you for listening to our Girl Awakening podcast. We are also on YouTube as Girl Awakening. We'd love to see you there with comments on how our guests resonated with you or your own awakening. Please share the love with a like and subscribe while you're there. A blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.